The following is a fake interview with Robert Wittman. All of the clips are property of The Today Show, PBS, and Idaho Public Television, and are in no way meant for profit. The message of this video does not necessarily support the opinion of Robert Wittman. Please support the original broadcasting. Welcome to Art with Adams. It is your host, Jason Adams. Today, we will have a real special show for you all. I will be interviewing the influential ex-art crime investigator, from the FBI, Robert Wittman. Hello, it is a pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me here tonight, Jeffrey.
It's actually Jason, but anyways, I have a few questions for you about the structure of the art crime underworld and investigative techniques. From what I understand, there are small groups that are easy to catch, and organized crime, which is much harder to deal with. Would you mind helping me out? Tell us about these small groups.
They are organized. They're not organized in a sense of the definition that we look at organized crime. What they are groups of people who work together to do different types of crime.
Oh, really? Could you give me an example?
Another occurred in the Museum of Fine Arts in Nice, where 4 paintings were stolen. Luckily, through an investigation and undercover operations that we initiated with the French, we were able to recover those particular paintings.
Interesting. I remember a similar case at the Museum of Modern Art. Hey, Stephanie, tell us about that.
5 modern art masterpieces estimated to be worth more than $100 million, stolen in the dead of night from one of the world's most prestigious museums, including Pablo Picasso's Dove with Green Peas, Henri Matisse's Pastoral, and Georges Braque's Olive Tree near a Stock. The 3 overnight guards at Paris's Museum of Modern Art say they didn't see or hear a thing. Security cameras recorded a lone masked intruder breaking in through a window, smashing a padlock, and stealing the paintings without ever tripping any alarms.
What do you think about that, Mr. Wittman?
You know, it's a funny thing. People say that these paintings are worth $125 million. The truth is they're worth nothing. They're worth zero because there's no history, no provenance, they don't have good title. So on the open art market, they're worth nothing.
Wow. So why do these thieves steal?
What I found out was, the first thing they want to do is they want to sell them. All right, that's the main goal, is to try to make as much money as possible. If they can't sell them and they're too hot to go, then what they'll do is they will maintain them, they'll hold on to them. At one point, individuals that I spoke to had more than 75 paintings that they had stored away. And they will hold on to these paintings until someone gets in trouble.
So how do you catch them? I hear a lot about sting operations. So tell me about that famous sting with the Bill of Rights.
Well, what we'll do is we'll go and we'll pose as the buyers. We'll go through with the actual sale with the National Constitution Center and their attorneys. And we ended up doing a rather elaborate, fake buy in a high-rise in downtown Philadelphia in a white shoe law office, where we had this deal going. It was very interesting because I was in the room, and what happened was the person who had the Bill of Rights, he didn't actually bring it in with him. He comes in, he looks at the check for the $4 million, which was real, by the way. Yeah, a lot of zeros on that check. And then he looked at all the paperwork and the documents that had been prepared, just as if we were going to do the deal. Yeah. And then he made a phone call, and a courier on a bike came over to the building, and he came in. I knew this because we had surveillance, watching, and he came in and brought the piece in. It was almost like a drug deal. Very strange. He brings the piece up, and he brings the Bill of Rights in. And I'll never forget, they took it out of a tube, and we unwound it. And it's a piece of vellum about 4 feet high, an amazing piece, all handwritten in ink. And you could see how it had been faded over the years from just being out in the sunlight and whatnot. And the words rang out, the Bill of Rights. And it was just an amazing thing to see. At that point, we got as much evidence as we could. And I called in the SWAT team again from the conference hall next door, and they came in, and we were able to arrest everyone and recover the piece.
Seems like these independent groups are susceptible to stings and tricks. It also seems that they are easy to trace through museums from other reports that you've given.
And we found that about 88% of museum thefts, heists from museums, usually entailed someone from the inside. Now, not always was it an employee, not always was it a family member, but it could have been an expert, something of that nature. But someone who had access and keys to the kingdom usually was who was involved.
I hear that you also managed to convince criminals to betray their comrades in the Stockholm case. and actually reveal information that led to the recovery of some paintings.
Well, what happened was there was a armed robbery of the Swedish National Museum. That was in 2000, late December. 3 individuals went into the museum. They went in at gunpoint. They, two of the men ran around the museum and stole 3 paintings, 2 by Renoir and the Rembrandt. The Rembrandt was the most valuable. It was valued at about $36 million. In the next 5 years, we were able to recover the 2 Renoirs, one in Sweden, and actually one we recovered in Los Angeles. Once we got that one back, we started to be able to get information about where the Rembrandt was, and it was still in Sweden. So once we learned that, we set up an undercover operation. We actually did it in Denmark, in Copenhagen, in a hotel there, where we lured the thieves to bring it to me. In that particular case, I was acting undercover as a buyer for the I guess you'd call the Russian mob, and we were able to have them bring it to us, and we lured them to us, and we were able to recover it.
Anything else on bribery or betrayal?
They will use these as bargaining chips to lessen sentences and even have charges dropped. So they become negotiating chips in crime families.
Wow, that is quite a bit on small groups. It seems like it's relatively easy to get them through stings, bribery, and museum tracking. Now, I want to change topic on organized crime, and I'll be discussing that myself. I have studied art and the mafia quite a bit myself, and it seems they are the exact opposite of small groups. They will kill any loose ends and anyone who might rat on the mafia. David Turner killed many of his comrades, for instance. They have a very important hierarchy of loyalty, and no one can compromise the mafia. They are generally clean and leave little evidence, and it is difficult to get any information from them. Even then, they have little incentive to give information because many mafias have a lot of control over the local authorities. What this means is that investigation requires a serious attention to subtle detail, and you can't fully rely on the local authorities. Collectively, they are very intelligent, but art is traded like a currency, so even if you were to get information from the members, it wouldn't necessarily work. They have no idea where the money goes, just like you have no idea where your paper money goes, or where it came from after you got it. Some paintings can land on the opposite side of the world, for instance. Overall, it's extremely difficult to investigate the mafia. I personally think that the solution is just to focus on small groups. However, we are both aware that artwork flows through the underworld of small groups and organized crime in a network. Tell me a bit from your perspective, for instance, in France, where you have a lot of expertise. How is the network formed there?
It's the result of gangs and groups in France that work together to do these art heists. So those individuals do have contacts, and they have tendrils throughout the country, and they do work together.
Interesting. I've thought a bit about this, and I think we can slow the flow of stolen art drastically by just stopping the small groups before they bring art to the underworld and possibly to the mafia. I'm only worried that maybe some of the weaker groups will die off only to leave the stronger groups a larger market share. Even if we crack down, art thieves won't stop stealing. We both know that there is no money to be made of art crime, but every year art thievery goes up. It's just a hypothesis to consider, but overall, I think these investigative techniques will be very useful for future investigation. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Wittman.
I appreciated being here. It's been a good time. Thank you.